Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. It's Sunday, so you know what that means? We have the weekly recap of all the top stories located right here in one convenient location, all for the week of October 6th, 2025. Hope you enjoy it. Remember, the Constitution matters.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Before we get to the docket, a couple things we need to talk about. First, if you want merch, like, for example, the Crime Talk tag that we have, go to the link down below. Also, more merch stuff. Check out this. Lawyer, love it. How about this one? Go there, check it out. If you got a great idea, guess what? They can make one too. And that's right, the Constitution matters. It does, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's go ahead and open the record. And first on the docket, Brian Kohberger swaps his deadly blade for some mind-numbingly tedious lockup routines. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Or in Brian Kohberger's case, how the once notorious slasher is now begging for basic prison perks that could bore anyone to tears. Now, official documents from the Idaho Department of Corrections outlining Kohberger's grievances and his unexcitingly daily routine in that fortress of solitude, and honestly, it's about as thrilling as watching paint dry. Take a look at this little gem. Kohberger, the guy who admitted to knifing 4 University of Idaho undergrads to death, dashed off 3 inmate grievances sheet to the folks at the Idaho Top Security Slammer during July and August of this year. On July 27th, he whined about not being able to log into JPay. That's the fancy app for funneling cash to prisoners so they can splurge on snacks, preventing his grand commissary haul, since that's apparently the highlights of his cell-bound existence. Now, a guard fired back that setup takes a hot minute after a transfer. Kohberger had just been shipped from the local jail to his lifelong resort around July 25th, following his 4 consecutive life sentences. The excitement escalated, yawn, on August 13th when our anti-hero scribbled that he'd requested supplies and got zilch in return. Staff helpfully noted that those goodies usually drop on Sundays. Riveting stuff, isn't it? Then on August 18th, with evidently zero other thrills on his schedule, Kohberger penned a gushing note to Sergeant Martin, thanking him for some printouts and order forms, and boasting that his JPay woes had magically vanished. How utterly fulfilling. And if that doesn't scream party time, consider his ultra-exclusive digs in the high restriction wing. Solo cell, shuffled around in shackles like a prize exhibit per the department's details. Officials chime in that the 30-year-old gets to freshen up every other day and bask in a whopping hour of fresh air daily. What a glamorous downgrade from his previous hobbies. Bleak doesn't even begin to cover it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, prison life, it's not what everybody thinks it is. Everybody doesn't think about it. Nobody thinks about it when they're committing the crime. But seriously, you think if you're getting 4 life sentences, I'd be like, just take me out. Let's get this over with. Let's bring it on. On a little more positive note, though, the Chapin family has provided a path forward after the murders. So Stacy Chapin, mother of Ethan Chapin, one of the victims in the 2022 University of Idaho murders, has expressed that understanding Brian Kohberger's motive is not essential for her family's healing. She stated that dwelling on such details would not alter the tragic outcome or restore her son. Instead, the family prioritizes activities that support their well-being. Now, the Chapins supported the plea deal agreement that resulted in Kohberger getting those 4 life sentences without parole following his guilty plea. They said that this resolution avoided the uncertainties of a trial, including potential appeals, and ensured that Kohberger would remain incarcerated permanently. Now, Stacey Chapin noted that this outcome provides closure, allowing the family to conclude this chapter after nearly 3 years. Now, Ethan's triplet siblings, Maisie and Hunter, have demonstrated resilience. Both returned to the University of Idaho shortly after the incident and graduated in May in 2025. Hunter is pursuing a career as a firefighter, with Maisie has begun employment at a hospital. Stacey emphasized their strengths and the family's focus on progressing beyond the event. To honor Ethan, the Chapins established the Ethan's Smile Foundation in 2023, which awards scholarships to students, and by May of 2025, it had already distributed $105,000 to 83 recipients under the scholarship. The family members serve on the foundation's board. Now, additionally, Stacey has collaborated with Ortham Labs, the forensic genetic genealogy lab that aided in identifying Kohberger through DNA evidence. And the Chapins advocate for expanded access to such technology to help other families resolve cases more efficiently. Now, with the legal proceedings concluded, Stacey and her husband Jim are resuming plans for their future, including travel. They aim to support their children's transition into adulthood while focusing on personal renewal. Good for them. The federal prosecutors are saying, yeah, we're not giving up Luigi. And I'll explain in greater detail why that is done and what it means. All right. So federal authorities have formally notified the court that Luigi Mangione, charged obviously with the murder of the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, will not return to Blair County, Pennsylvania to address separate charges stemming from his arrest at the local McDonald's. Now, recent filings in the case from the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York indicate that Mangione will stay under federal custody rather than being extradited back to Blair County. Now, although an earlier email from the office had conveyed this position, Mangione's Blair County Defense Counsel, a guy by the name of Thomas Dickey, insisted on official documentation. Now, this development resulted in the postponement of Mangione's scheduled hearing in Blair County as he declined to participate remotely. Dickey argued that his client's constitutional entitlement to be in person must be upheld. And frankly, I agree with that position. It's a critical stage of the proceeding. You got to have the defendant there. Now, the prosecutors have stated that such a transfer is frankly impractical, citing the significant logistical challenges and expenses incurred during Mangione's initial relocation from Blair County to New York, which were exacerbated by extensive media attention. At present, Dickey's subsequent actions remain unclear, though it appears Mangione will not be present at any hearing. So nothing's going to take place. So this gets a little interesting, all right? Although Mangione was originally arrested in Pennsylvania, he was in state custody. Then the feds got him, all right? And then he was transferred to New York because he's got the state murder case and the federal murder case. And so ultimately now he's in primary federal custody. The feds like to keep their prisoners tight and nestled in because their concern is that they send them back to the states, somehow they get released, and it creates lots of problems. So the the Fed is like, we're going to keep them. The states can do what they refer to as an 11-point memorandum, requesting that somebody basically appear on a writ or in person to appear in state court. And then they're sent right back to the federal custody. Feds don't like to do that. Okay. And once the feds get you, that's it. Now, what really gets complicated is when you're originally being held in the state, feds got a case, feds keep you, you get sentenced in the feds, you get sentenced to the state, they send you back to the state, you serve your state sentence, and then you go do your federal sentence. It gets real confusing. It's called primary federal custody and primary state custody, and it really is a battle of the sovereigns, so to speak, as to who gets you and who gets first. And particularly if there's like concurrent sentences, like the feds don't really recognize, we're going to make your sentence concurrent with the state case. They don't do that. State's a little easier, but you still got to go serve the Fed time. Then they ship it back to the states. Then they calculate everything, but it gets really confusing and messy. But here's where things get interesting. Now, remember, they entered a plea of not guilty in the Mangione case, is my recollection and understanding. So speedy trials should be ticking. And I'm not aware of any waivers, but if there are, that's okay too. But if there's not any waivers, the case could get dismissed in Pennsylvania. So the prosecutors may have to do it because of speedy trial issues. The defense could say, no, we demand you be brought in. If state can't prosecute it, dismiss the case. So it could work out well for Luigi Mangione in this particular case. Now, the state could always dismiss, refile if there is not a sufficient enough sentence in the federal case in New York or the state case in New York to satisfy them. But frankly, it's the least of his concerns. It's having some forged documents, the gun, whatever. That's all going to be taken into account at the federal sentencing if he is ultimately convicted, which he's entitled to the presumption of innocence. So this could work out for Luigi Mangione, but the reality of it is, once again, I hate to say it, but we got to wait and see. But I think that's the play that his attorneys should be doing in the future, having the state dismiss, demand that the state dismiss in Pennsylvania. Next on the docket, Florida dentist, his toe tantrum. That's right. Oh, behold, the plight of Charlie Adelson. Remember him? Florida's most oppressed dentist who bravely survived a toe-stubbing catastrophe at the merciless confines of the Leon County Jail. The self-proclaimed victim of the podiatry injustice, currently serving life for orchestrating the 2014 murder of his ex-brother-in-law, Dan Markle, apparently found the real crime on August 31st. A jail staffer dared to open a door, grazing his precious barefoot toe. Cue the Oscar-worthy meltdown captured on body cam for the podcast Lies and Alibis. That was really effing stupid. Adelson whined because nothing screams I'm in charge like cursing out a nurse while locked in a cell. Now, the 47-year-old mastermind, who clearly thinks he is still sipping martinis at the Ritz, was in jail during his mother, Donna Adelson's murder trial, just in case he felt like gracing the courtroom with his testimony. But instead of reflecting on his role in hiring a hitman to gun down Markle, a Florida University law professor and father of Adelson's nephews, he fixated on his toe. Bring your lieutenant over. I'll tell him how effing stupid you are, he barked at the staffer, because, nothing says I'm a stable genius like demanding to speak to the manager from behind bars. Give me my medicine and open the hatch like a normal person. Like someone with a brain, he added, as if he's the arbiter of jail etiquette. The nurse, unfazed by Adelson's charm, calmly explained to her supervisor that he was just trying to pass meds when Adelson's foot got in the way. He done cursed me out. He done called me stupid, she said, probably wondering why she didn't sign up for a quieter gig, like a lion tamer, perhaps. Adelson, undeterred, rambled about the hatch and how his toe wasn't broken but was effed up, hobbling out of the cell like a Shakespearean tragic hero to demand his meds and a toe inspection. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of eye rolling going on here as people are calling out Adelson's entitlement. That's a sight of an entitled, privileged brat, I say. Now, Adelson, expecting a red carpet treatment apparently in his cell block, he thinks he's still at the Ritz, living his best life out in custody. Now, he needs to sit down, learn some respect, and learn some humility. Many people have said, I agree. Good luck with that. Adelson's rap sheet is juicier than his toe drama. Found guilty in December of 2023 of first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation. He orchestrated the hit on Markle with a messy divorce and a custody battle between Markle and Adelson's sister. Adelson and the then girlfriend, Catherine Magbuana, hired Latin Kings gang members Sigfrid Garcia and Luis Rivera to stalk and shoot Markle outside of his home back in July of 2014. Garcia, the triggerman, and Magbuana are also serving life sentences, while Donna Adelson, the alleged mastermind, got her own life sentence after a courtroom outburst that earned her a judicial scolding. Oh my God, she sobbed, as if the real tragedy was her lack of an Emmy for drama. So here's to Charlie Adelson, whose toe injury is clearly the injustice of the century. Forget the murder for hire. It's the hatch that's the real victim here. You can't make this stuff up. This guy really is that entitled. Brian Kohberger. That's right. The person who was filming him in his cell has been identified, and heaven forbid we infringe upon the sacred privacy of Brian Kohberger, the poor soul serving 4 consecutive life sentences for brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students. And in a shocking twist, the Boise's finest at the Idaho State Police have identified the rogue person who dared to film this paragon of virtue in his cozy solitary confinement cell in J Block, where naturally only the most distinguished guests like death row inmates reside. But alas, this dastardly culprit will face no criminal charges. Why, you ask? Because apparently capturing Kohberger's charming prison life on video doesn't quite qualify as a crime. Kohberger, ever the victim, whined to prison officials about his fellow inmates torturing him. How dare they disturb his peaceful existence? So, after his transfer to the maximum security medical wing, because nothing screams spa retreat like a prison hospital, and then to his exclusive J Block suite, someone had the audacity to leak authentic security footage of him to the internet. The Idaho Department of Corrections was positively outraged, vowing to hunt down this villain and threaten them with gasp termination, or maybe even criminal prosecution. But big plot twist, the employee, clearly trembling in their boots, quit before the Idaho Department of Corrections could finish their grand investigation. And in a stunning display of legal gymnastics, it turns out filming a security feed while strictly against DOC's oh-so-sacred policies isn't actually illegal under state or federal law. Who knew? Anyway, the Idaho State Police, after a thorough squint at the law books, shrugged and said, not contraband, no crime. Now, DOC there in Idaho, ever the beacon of professionalism, issued a statement dripping with self-congratulations. They're thrilled to identify the policy-violating scoundrel who now conveniently left the agency. They assure us that they're committed to upholding the highest standards of conduct to protect the precious security of inmates like Kohberger. Meanwhile, Idaho law politely prevents them from spilling any juicy details about the employee who had the gall to share a glimpse of Kohberger's new reality show, Life in Lockup. So rest easy, folks. The sanctity of a convicted quadruple murderer's privacy remains intact, and the wheels of justice, or at least bureaucratic finger wagging, will keep on turning. I know. What can you say? But at least Idaho feels better about it. We got to see Brian Kohberger in his new little habitat, just like a little caged animal at the zoo. So I think this person's probably saying, worth it. First, Donna Adelson's sentencing is coming up. That's right. Donna Adelson is scheduled to appear in a Leon County courtroom on Monday for her formal sentencing related to the murder of Florida State University law professor Dan Markle. Now, Leon County State Attorney Jack Campbell announced on Thursday that the sentencing will occur on October 13th, which is one day prior to the date originally set for a status conference. In September, Adelson became the 5th person convicted in the murder for hire plot targeting her former son-in-law, who was fatally shot outside his residence in Tallahassee back in 2014. Her son, Charlie, had previously been convicted on identical charges, and the jury determined that she orchestrated the killing and provided the money to the perpetrators through her son and his former girlfriend. Following her conviction, Adelson submitted a motion requesting a new trial, which Judge Stephen Everett promptly rejected. She now faces a mandatory life sentence for the offense of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and solicitation to commit murder. Let's face it, sentencing in this particular case is a perfunctory matter. Everybody knows what the sentence is going to be, but this gives the victim's family the opportunity to speak. And obviously, Miss Adelson will get the right to make a statement in allocution if she chooses to do so. Now, since there's going to be an appeal pending, her attorneys will more than likely advise her not to say a word, just like she did in the trial. Nothing good's going to come from that. The only thing she has on appeal are legal issues. Let the appellate courts solve it. Nothing good is going to come from her opening her mouth tomorrow. Like I said, it's completely perfunctory.